Hello and welcome to today's Lightroom wildlife edit. Today I'm going to take this raw file of this shepherd and I'm going to turn it into a photo like this, while of course showing you every single step I do. Let's get started with cropping. I definitely want a more focused crop and really get rid of all of the distraction, almost make this sort of a portrait and really give more attention towards the actual face and not really the distracting grass around it. I think that works pretty well, maybe just fine adjust it. And yeah, I think that looks a lot more interesting and definitely a little bit more powerful. So then, of course, as always, raising the shadows, bring down the highlights, really great starting place to start off the editing. Then I'm gonna bring up the whites while holding down the Alt key. And I might not go quite as far, but in any case, you definitely wanna make sure that you clip anything. But I might just go a little bit below that. So then let's go down with the blacks just a little bit to kind of pronounce these lines and the nose a bit more, really just a tad bit, and also increase the contrast also just a little bit to give the whole picture kind of more of a pop. Then color temperature is another very important thing. Because I have a very wide surface here, I can just drag this little pinpointer and it will correct the white balance and it gives you kind of a nice neutral starting point. However, I am going to warm up the scene just a little bit because I think that complements the whole fur and the whole picture a little bit more. Then down to clarity. I really like the look of clarity on the fur, on the actual shepherd, but not really in the background. So let me actually leave that at 0 and just grab an adjustment brush and go a little bit into the plus clarity here and just paint over the shepherd right there. Here is before that clarity adjustment and here's after. Really love local adjustments and definitely take advantage of them. Vibrance, because of course this is a raw file, I usually like to add at least a little bit of vibrance, so I'm gonna do that here as well, just around 20. And I think the picture from before to after has already a lot more of a pop and really looks more alive, more dramatic. However, even though I like the overall plus vibrance, I think it might be just a touch too much for the grass. So let me go straight away down to the HSL tool, go to saturation and just drag it over the grass and go down just a notch. So here is before, after, really just a very small and subtle adjustment, but you know, that is what makes your picture really unique and really great. Then tonal curve is another thing that really is very important to make your picture dynamic and interesting. Always love to bring up the highlights, especially here in the, of course, highlight portions of this fur. You definitely can see the difference in terms of dynamic, and I think it works really, really well here. Then the rest of these sliders, just playing around with them. I usually just go a little bit into the minus, a little bit into the plus and see what works there. I don't think there was a single picture where I went like minus 100 or plus 100 with any of these tonal curve sliders. So just play around with it, stick with whatever you like best. And yeah, I think that works a little bit better than before. Before any tonal curve adjustments, after a little bit brighter, a little bit more dynamic. Then let's go down a few tools. HSL tool, we already have done it with the greens and there's really nothing else I want to do. Split toning, I'm not quite sure. Let me try to add maybe a little bit of orange to kind of complement this color of the whole shepherd even more, but I'm really not sure if it actually works all that well. I mean, it kind of pronounces a bit more, definitely, and it gives it a sense of very unique saturation, but honestly, I think how it is enough saturation already. Otherwise, I think we really just oversaturate the actual shepherd. So I'm not going to change anything in the split toning. Detail, zoom in 1:1. Bring the sharpening to the right to maybe around 60. Zoom out again, mask into the right. Noise reduction, don't think there's anything needed, but of course color noise, always bring that slider to around 70, 75, and that will really make your picture look a lot cleaner from before to after. Then lens corrections, just doing my two basic things, removing chromatic aberration, go to profile and choose my lens, in this case a Tamron 70-300 lens, and that will just get rid of the distortion. Then down here at the effects, I'm not quite sure, I think a little bit of vignetting might work, however, I really don't want to go too far, just as really a little bit here, and then I'm gonna add quite a bit of local vignetting with the adjustment brush and the graduated filter in a second. And of course, lastly, camera calibration really doesn't have that big of a difference, big of an impact, so I'm just gonna say that I'm done with the global adjustment. So then let's grab straight away a graduated filter and drag it over the right here. And I really wanna kinda have a sort of a soft edge, but not too soft. And then I just want to go down into the exposure, and that way we really get to complement the whole lighting scheme, make everything a little bit more interesting, maybe even mix that with a little bit of contrast, and then grab another graduated filter over the pretty much parallel and go into the plus exposure to, of course, as always, just introduce a little bit more interest in terms of lighting. Before that adjustment, after, before, after, just works a little bit better, works a little bit more interesting, especially with the left portion of this eye being relatively bright, not the eye itself, but the fur around it, and the right being a little bit darker. Then I think I might just try to add a little bit of custom vignetting with the adjustment brush, go down in the exposure here with a very, very soft edge, and just kind of paint around these corners. I don't know if I wanna do it in the top left, but at the end I think it actually works quite well. Yeah, maybe I'm just gonna try to add another adjustment brush and go a little bit less into the minus exposure and just paint over the previous minus exposure adjustment brush just for the right and the bottom portions of the picture, and that really amplifies the whole lighting scheme even more. I think there might just be a little bit too much negative exposure in the very top left, so I'm just gonna grab another adjustment brush just for that portion and go a little bit into the plus exposure right there. So let's see, before any adjustment brushes and after, once again, really helps to give more attention towards the actual shepherd, and I think it works really well and really works for the overall mood. So I think we're nearing the end. I think definitely that the eyes are a little bit too dark. So let me just grab an adjustment brush and go into the plus exposure and just kind of drag it roughly over the eye and kind of make that a little bit brighter. Now you definitely don't want to, do something like that, but just making the eyes a little bit brighter on the wildlife pictures can oftentimes help. So let me duplicate that one and also do it for the left portion, maybe even a little bit more since this is the side where the light is coming from. And yeah, I think that works a bit better before this adjustment and after. Because we're already in the rail filters, I think I'm just gonna try to add some dodge and burning. Now this is definitely something I very rarely do on my wildlife pictures, but I actually think in this case it could actually work because there are so many very big kind of flat areas that might need or could benefit from a little bit more exposure difference. So let's try to add one on the head right here. Maybe right click duplicate, and even though this is the shadow side, if you don't do it too much you can still add a little bit of exposure difference even in the shadow side without making it look unnatural. So this is what I'm trying to do right here. Right click duplicate again, maybe just some very small spots here, just as if the lighting went above his head on some spots right here, and maybe another one over there. So let's see, before any dodge and burning, after, I think it definitely works a bit better, a bit more interesting, but I think I also have to go just a little bit into the minus exposure with some filters. So let's add one here and go a little bit into the minus exposure. Also maybe mix that with a little bit of contrast and just kind of go in these areas where the shadows would be very harsh and kind of amplify that. Now, all of these adjustments, you don't want to do it too much. You, at the end, don't even want your viewer to notice that you've done anything. You really just want to complexify the light and make everything a little bit more interesting while still keeping the overall look of the picture organic and natural. So let me finish up here, and I think that works really well according to the lighting scheme. And this is before any Lightroom burning, this is after, before, after. Especially these minus exposure filters I think work pretty well. So is there anything else I want to do for this photo? I actually think I'm pretty much done in this case. Maybe I'm actually gonna brighten up the eyes even more with the previous rail filters. And let's see if it works. Bring that one up as well. And yeah, I think it works even better. Of course, ideally would be if the pupils would be visible in his eyes, but unfortunately not in this picture. But oh well, I still think it's a pretty solid picture. I might just want to try and just quickly see how it looks in black and white. It definitely does work as well. It's overall, I think overall I like the color a bit better, just because the differentiation from the actual chopper to the grass is so clear because of the color, and in black and white it's kind of a little bit more mixed together, which I don't really like. But at the end, I guess it's just preference, and both work pretty well, but I definitely like color more. So let's go into the history and see the before. And this is the before without any adjustments, and here is the after. I think it's a much more dramatic, much more in your face, punchy picture. So I think it works pretty well, and I really do like it. Be sure to subscribe, of course, for more videos just like this one, other Lightroom edits, landscape photography edits, all kind of stuff. And by the way, if my voice is a little bit different than usual, a bit worse, not so clear, it is because I'm a little bit sick, so I hope that will, go away in a few days. But anyways, thank you of course as always for watching, and have a great day.